Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nerd Steve, and today I'm joined by can't talk today, Professor Dungeon Master from Dungeon Craft. How are you doing today?
Terrific. How are you, Dave?
I'm doing excellent. As always, folks, there are links in the description to click, but I am sure most of you already know who Professor Dungeon Master is. He's got a fantastic YouTube channel. So it's super cool to have you on. You're actually pretty hard to track down. I had to actually go through a mutual to track down your information to get a hold of you. You've insulated yourself from the interwebs.
Yeah, I'm afraid of them.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm afraid of the net.
Well, because I do a lot of these interviews and I have a lot of different people on, I've gotten pretty good at tracking people down. But you were one of the tougher ones. But you had done some work for Quest Givers and had done an adventure for those guys, and I'm friends with them. And I was like, hey, can you do an introduction? And but also, like, we live in the same state, so if I drove around enough, maybe I could have found you.
Yeah. At some point, I go down to your area. Every once in a while, we go to Atlantic City to see some kind of concert. My wife is not a big gambler.
Oh yeah, I used to go down like I would call it like my annual pilgrimage to go down to Atlantic City and make my donation. It's like I don't expect to come back with money. I just like, all right, here's how much money I can take with me, and that's what I'm going to leave behind. Although a couple times I did get lucky. I remember one time I went down there and I went with the guys and left my wife behind, which we were dating at the time. She was so pissed. But I came home and threw like $600 on the bed. It's like, well, here's the rent for this month.
Yeah, that happened once or twice with me, but ever since then I've lost. And my wife, the last time we went, I went with that money, expecting to lose a couple hundred.
Yeah.
I got up to 70 and she was like, that's it. We got to pull out. $70.
Yeah. Like, so when we go, it's all about like, I'll go with like $100 or $200 and be like, how long can I make this money last? Yeah. Is like the key. So there's a game, right? And maybe it's the D&D gamer in me that I like to play. And it's you can't find it at all at casinos, but it's like a shell. It's like a half bubble with 3 dice in it. And they put the shell on it and they shake it. And you can like bet on like triples, doubles, specific numbers, high, low, odds, evens. And it's like, if you go at a certain time, the buy-in is only $1. And it's 3 dice 6, so it's like right up my alley. That's the game that I've made the most money on.
Yeah, I gotta play that.
Yeah. It's not at all the casinos too, so it's like kind of hard. It's like the wheel. Like some people like the dollar wheel. Well, that's my dollar wheel.
Yeah.
Does gambling come up in your games very often?
Once in a while. I do have players that have that itch, and some of but other players, it's interesting. They don't want to lose their fake money.
Yeah.
Some players get like a vicarious thrill for playing some sort of game of chance and betting big, but most of my players are super conservative. They don't want to lose their fake their imaginary money,
or they want to know how they can cheat.
They're pretty honest, but they don't want to lose.
Yeah, I've done that a couple times. It's kind of fun. Like a couple times I've made up like gambling games on the spot to throw into the game. I find that a lot of my players have like doing that, but they also want to figure out how to cheat. So, especially when I've got like younger players, they're always looking to like test the boundaries and see what they can get away with.
I have a youth group, but I've never had any gambling with them because I don't want to be a bad influence.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Well, when I say younger, like my son is 20, It's like his friends, and then my nephew, his younger, is 13. So maybe a bad influence on him. But I feel like every nephew needs that like bad influence uncle. So so I might as well fill the role.
So that's you. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, so I don't know. Nerded or Doug says they're announcing a new book today. I didn't even know.
I have no idea. Is there a chat?
Yeah, there is a chat on the watch page.
Can I see that?
You can. I sent you the watch page, so if you go to
that's where the watch page is.
Yeah.
Because I don't know.
What is this YouTube thing? What are we doing here?
That's the funny thing. Like everybody that knows me thinks it's hilarious that I have a YouTube channel because I don't know how any technology works.
Oh.
I don't know how to turn I don't know. I need my child's help to turn on television.
Well, I mean, apparently you're figuring it out. You have a fairly successful channel, and people seem to really like what you have to say. So it's working for you.
Yeah, I mean, somehow.
Yeah,
I made it work.
It is weird because like when we started playing, there was no internet, let alone YouTube, right? So like all this stuff, we kind of come into it and have to figure it out and learn what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how like you did it, but I knew nothing. Like right now, I'm looking at my name.
Yeah.
Does it say Michelle? Because it says it's got my wife's name up there.
Oh, it does. People can't see that because I got you cut into OBS.
Okay. I was like, does everybody know my wife's name now? Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know how you guys got started, but for me, it was on a dare. And my friend said, you ought to have a YouTube channel. I was like, I don't know anything about YouTube. And so I started like looking around at like and so I saw Nerdarchy and DM Scotty and DMG and Runehammer.
Yeah.
Which was Drunkens and Dragons. And then I was like, well, it can't be that hard. This guy's drunk. And then so I started taping and on my iPhone, and it quickly ran out of space, so then I had to get a camera, and then I started transferring the video onto a computer, and then the computer filled up. So I had to get an external hard drive, and I was like figuring it out as I go, and I didn't know how to edit or anything like that.
This all sounds very familiar.
And I don't know if it was the same with you, Dave, but like at some point I was like, well, I'm like $5,000 into this. Like I got to make a YouTube show now.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, when we started the YouTube channel as a business. Like, and we weren't sure what it was going to be or what exactly we were going to do with it. To be honest with you, my brother had moved back to the Philadelphia area from New Mexico, and he's like, "Hey, we should do some kind of internet thing," because like I had dabbled with different things on the internet before, network marketing, affiliate marketing, so like I knew a little bit about stuff on the internet. I didn't know anything about YouTube, and so like I just started poking around. Because I also had a friend who was kind of like a mentor to me. He's like, you should do something with Dungeons and Dragons on the internet. I'm like, nobody cares about that. And so I started poking around. And, the first channel I think we found was Counter Monkey, Noah Atweiler Spoonie. And they had like 30,000 subscribers. And I was like, oh my God, people do want to know about this stuff. And then we just started like talking generic gaming and nerd stuff, and then 5e dropped 6 months into it, and I'm like, oh, there's another edition. Like we didn't even know they were coming out with a new edition of the game. We had been playing Mutants and Masterminds, and we'd been on a tangent with that, and we were playing like every genre with that at that point. And it just so happened when they dropped 5e, it was like, oh, I kind of actually like this, and things kind of just went from there. When did you get started?
Oh gosh, like not in YouTube, like playing D&D.
No, in YouTube.
Oh, YouTube. I got started 4 years ago.
Okay.
It might have been 5 years ago because there was a whole year where I just made videos, like practice videos, but I didn't air them. I made my first 10 or 12 videos, and I just worked on those for a year. And then I put them all up at once because I watched videos on how to start a YouTube channel. They said, well, you don't just put one video up. You have to have 10 or 12 videos. So I did that. But they were sort of like the demo versions, like a recording artist does the demo version. And then, you get, and they were really primitive. And most of them, because of computer crash, I didn't even use them. I had to film them over again, which, my early videos are bad enough. So I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did.
Not us. We started off terrible right from the beginning.
I mean, so it's just, so it's about three or 4 years.
Yeah.
And then my goal was always to do like, okay, I'm going to do 100 episodes. And then I could say I did it. And then after that, it was after 100 episodes, I realized, I could talk about Dungeons and Dragons forever. And like, it's not hard coming up with ideas. And then I was on a show and the host recommended, he's like, dude, you got to get into Patreon and stuff. And then I started the Patreon and the Facebook group at the same time and stuff like that. And it just like grew without much of a plan.
It's a lot too. Like you do all these different jobs and each one of them's like a person could just do that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like editing or something like that is like, there are people that just do that for a living.
Yes. We've been outsourcing our editing for a while. It's got its pros and cons. We're not as quick and nimble as we used to be. We can't just shoot a video and turn it around, that day or the next day like we used to. And also like our editor they're not a gamer. So you like have to storyboard things and like, I don't know that it's less work. They just do a better job. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So Chris wants to know what motivated and inspired you to play the Veiled Society module.
Oh, that's a great question. So my patrons especially have asked, they like really my Caves of Carnage, where I did this whole campaign. I put every planning session up, I'm like, and this is how I do it. And this is what my notebook looks like and so on and so forth. And they weren't my most popular videos, but sort of just like the hardcore Dungeon Craft fans, the patrons, they really dug it and they wanted me to do another one. So when I was looking for another one to do, I thought of the Lost City, but I do a lot of these models. Like when I'm talking, I'll show you scenes, from the thing. And the Lost City, I thought, well, I'd have to build an entire Lost City. And I was like, screw that. That's too tough.
Yeah.
And most of my campaign, my real campaign is based in cities anyway. So I thought, the Veiled Society is it's a scenario that it's Zeb Cook. I mean, he's one of the great designers. I don't think that it's anyone's like sort of like top tier of like, this is the greatest module ever. It's got cool ideas in it. But like, I thought that that's why I wanted to do it, like to show like how you could take, a module and really make it your own, and do funky things with it. And I just like urban based scenarios, and my campaign is mostly urban based anyway. So it's a good module, but it doesn't have that, like people love the Keep on the Borderlands or the Lost City, and Veiled Society is kind of a deep cut. And that's what I like. It was off the beaten path, kind of.
Kind of circle back to part of what I asked before was like how you got started. The YouTuber, well, how old were you when you started gaming?
I was 10. And it's 40 years ago this year that I started. I was 10 years old. I had a buddy. Everyone in the neighborhood was talking about Dungeons and Dragons, and there's no internet, and it's like once in a while you'd find a kid that played it, and this kid was Robbie in the neighborhood, and I would ask Robbie. He was like 2 years younger than me, so he's like 8, and this 8-year-old, I'm asking him like, okay, well, how many levels are there? And he's like, there's like 1 million levels. Actually, he said like there's 100. There's like 100 levels, and I was like, a game with 100 levels. Like what kind of game is this? And I had a buddy who got the box set for Christmas, and he was too lazy to read it. So he invited me over to roll up characters. We did it wrong because he's rolling the 20-sided die for ability scores. And then he was like, at the end, he was like, yeah, I'm never going to read this. Here, you take it and tell me how to play. And I was sort of the youngest runty kid in the group. All my friends were like a couple years older. And then I read it, and then I was like, oh, wow, this is the most amazing thing ever. I was like saying, this is the most amazing game ever. We should play. And they were like, we'll wait for a rainy day. But a rainy day never came. And I couldn't get them to play because they were all older than me. And like, I would have to be the dungeon master, and no one's going to listen to the youngest kid.
Yeah.
So I had to scour the neighborhood for these little kids, like that were at my age or, within a year. And I didn't know any dungeon masters. There was no YouTube. I wasn't even that clear that with the concept of the game, like the dungeon master screen and the players don't see the map. Like I thought you laid out the keep on the borderlands and everybody looked at it. And I couldn't understand in the example of play, like, why do they keep saying like, oh, is that door in the north wall?
Yeah.
Because I'd never seen it. I didn't have a wargaming background. I didn't have parents who gamed. Like nobody knew anything about this game. And I just read the books. And that's how I learned to play D&D.
That sounds accurate. I mean, like, again, the way I started playing as well was older kids in the neighborhood, right? And just looking for people to play this game with. And then, and from there, and then I recruited mostly people that were younger than me to play the game as well. Like I want to say even like our original group, in my, that kind of like is the core of Nerdarchy. In my early 20s, like Ted is a couple years younger than me. My brothers are much younger than me. And it was just like me and this other guy who I grew up with and hung out with that were into it, but everybody else was younger. So like, it was very much like that, where you kind of like would kind of pass the torch, I guess. And you're just like trying to find people that'll listen to you to play the game, play this weird game with you. Cause I remember trying to do it with my peers when I was in my teens and it not working very well. Also, they were all a bunch of stoners, so I don't know if that had something to do with it, but
yeah, it's you don't have the gravitas.
Yeah.
When you're a dungeon master, you can't run kids that are older than you. They got to at least be maybe a year older, but that's about it.
But now the paradigm is completely shifted. Like none of that matters, and like now it's so easy to find gaming and people to game with. And you can find people from all walks of life. It was, I want to say like the weird thing for us is when we started doing Nerdarchy was like the people we would encounter that watched our channel, and they're like doctors and lawyers, and like we're like, I mean, like white collar and maybe very blue collar type workers, and it's like, why are these people listening to us? They're definitely way smarter than we are. But it's kind of cool to see how the hobbies evolved. So you're talking about when you started, it was like probably during the satanic panic or just before.
It was.
Yeah. Is that why everyone in your neighborhood was talking about it?
I think that added to the mystique, is like that there was a mystique about it. You didn't, there was no internet. There were rumors that some kid went insane.
Yeah.
And died playing the game. And that just made it cooler.
Yeah. It's like playing with a Ouija board, right? Like, am I going to get possessed by the devil? I don't know. Let's find out.
Which is also owned by Hasbro.
Yeah.
Now. And that's what it was. There was a real mystique about it because like not everybody did it and they couldn't explain what it was. How did you have a game that's in a box, it's got dice, but you don't have a board? Like it was totally mind blowing. And it was really different. It was a really different. And now you could just watch on YouTube and watch how it's played. It's like a totally different thing.
The group you're playing with now, how long have you been playing with them?
Some of them since I was 10 or 11.
Oh, wow.
Some of them I picked up some when I was a teenager, one guy, and others in their 20s, but now it's 20 years ago. I've been running the same campaign or offshoots of that campaign since about 1990.
That's pretty impressive. We suffer from ADHD when it comes to gaming, and we have stopped and started more games than I can keep track of.
Yeah, I think that's common. I said that in a recent episode. I can't remember what it was or if it even aired yet. According to Wizards of the Coast data, most campaigns only last 6 months, or less.
And that being said, like, so there's 4 of us that have kind of like been part of this group for the past like 20 plus years. But even still, it's like getting games to continue just wouldn't happen. The DM gets burnt out or bored, or someone else takes over, and we'll go back to that, but we never go back to that. So what do you think the secret is to getting your games to last and keep going?
I couldn't tell you, because I've also run campaigns that just I wanted them to continue and nobody wanted to play them.
Yeah.
It's those characters and that particular world. The players love returning to those characters. So we may not play for 6 months, and then we're playing other things, but we'll return to the main characters every 3 months or 6 months. But it's really the strength of the characters. So it's the combination of the players and me. It's not like I have an amazing world or something.
Yeah, I mean, getting all the puzzle pieces together, I think, is what gaming is all about anyway, right? Like, one particular game may not work at one table, but it may work at another. And That's kind of like the cool thing about it, is like matching up what everybody wants at the same table and getting it to jive.
Yep.
So what are you working on nowadays?
So tomorrow, I'm happy to say we come out with our 200th episode of Dungeon Craft. So that was pretty cool. And I'm also got the Veiled Society campaign going. I'm working on my house rules called Deathbringer. And I've got McDeath out now, which is the module I wrote with Quest Givers. And I've written them a new thing, and it's in their hands. So it's in the editing stage. So that'll be out, I don't know, whenever.
Well, so what is the deal with Deathbringer?
So Deathbringer is people always want my house rules. And the weird thing about my house rules is I never wrote them down. Like in my game, you come to the game and I just tell you what to roll, and people are happy with that. So like we never look up rules or consult rule books or anything like that. But patrons, they're like, well, we want these rules. So my thing was like, all right, well, I'll write them up. But it's kind of tough to write your house rules, especially when they're always changing.
They're fluid.
So Deathbringer is a combination of like 5e and Redbox D&D from like Moldvay D&D with 5e. Very fluid. And it's a lot like the White Hack, which is an OSR.
And what about the Deathbringer character that appears in all your videos?
So Deathbringer, I did a video on how to create. It was one of my first videos, like how to create a character. And you get together. I said you want to get together with everybody, sit around, and talk about the different characters. That way, everyone kind of jives. Like so you have Lauren Dill the elf, and Sister Agatha the cleric, and then you got this one guy that's like, and I'm Deathbringer. Like, like you could be like, all right, I've got a new idea for a campaign. Everyone's going to be a rogue, and it's set in Venice in 1500, and you're all going to be rogues and spies and courtesans. And what do you want to be? I want to be Deathbringer. You got that guy. So I put that in the video, and someone responded in the chat like, "Deathbringer is my spirit animal."
Yeah, yeah.
And then people were like, "We want more Deathbringer."
And you're just sitting here like, oh, but that's the worst part of all my tables ever. That's what Deathbringer is.
And then so I was like, I don't know what to call my house rules.
Yeah.
And Hanker Infernale over at Runehammer, he just sent me a Facebook thing, no intro. He's like, yes, or F yeah. That's what he wrote, F yeah. And I'm like, what are you even talking about?
That sounds like him.
And he's like, and I was like, are you talking about the name Deathbringer? And he said, yes, it's called Deathbringer. So it's a very grim, dark game, and rules light, grim, dark game. So I'm writing it up.
So now that you're like actually compiling your house rules, how large of a book is that going to end up being?
It's funny you should mention that. It's 40 pages right now, 40 some odd pages. My goal is to get it down as few pages as possible.
Yeah.
Like I'm rewriting it now to eliminate words because I don't like reading game rules. And my thing is always just like get it down to as few words as possible. So I'm regressing. I'm actually eliminating it. And it's very difficult.
So it'll be interesting for your players to actually read your house rules now and be like, oh, that's what we've been doing.
Well, they're always complaining that like, oh, he's got another rule, because I'll try out a new rule and and see what they think of it. Like we did player facing combat, and it comes down to, well, do they like it? And in fact, they hated it. So I understand like other people like it. I think it's a really cool idea, and it works with one of my groups, but my older players just hate it.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, well, that wasn't the rules. Now this month it's out.
Well, I mean, that's part of it too, is like the discovery of, right, like what makes it better for your table and what doesn't work, right? And sometimes just some things even just sound better in your head, right? And then it hits the table and like, oh, that didn't pan out.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And what I wanted to talk about is there is a rule that went over really well at my table that you don't care for.
That I don't care for.
It's the proficiency dice.
Oh. From optional rules from the DMG?
Page 231, proficiency.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic.
Oh, I hate dice. Dice hate me too.
I know, you think you're cursed.
We listen, we did 5 rounds of combat Saturday night. I hit twice. And it was just like and one of I was rolling digitally, and then one of the other guys, you should roll real dice, you roll better. Picked up a set of real dice. It was like a 1 and a 7. I'm like, I literally just rolled the same numbers I've rolled digitally analog, but they're 1 worse. So it's like, I guess that proves that wrong. Like,
but I like that video you had done, and you had mentioned that.
Yeah.
And I think it is the best 5e rule that's not an official rule. I love the proficiency dice, and my players love them. And
if you want swinginess, for sure, right? Like, because it increases the highs and the lows.
Yeah.
So, Fried Minis, thanks for the super chat. Shout out to the best dressed man on YouTube. Pretty sure he means you, not me. Live by the vest, die by the vest.
I'm glad you like it, because I was really struggling with it because I'm in a room that's like 90 degrees right now.
Oh, no. Yeah. You got to suffer for your art, man. Yeah. And actually, this Saturday, like, I am still adjusting to playing in person again. I feel like a groundhog coming out of my hole. Are we going to get 6 more weeks of Plague or not? But I didn't bring any of my dice when we gamed. I just forgot. I was like, oh, whatever. I mean, I use my character sheets from D&D Beyond anyway, so I was like, I was just rolling this. But it was the rolls were not good. Not good at all.
Do you know about DM Scotty's luck dice? Have you heard about that? Did Scott tell you about those?
No. What is DM Scotty's luck dice?
So instead of inspiration, when you fail a roll, you get a luck die. It's a D6 that you could save up your luck dice.
Okay.
And then later on in the game, you can use your luck dice to increase a roll.
I think I do, because me and Ted actually flew out to Ohio because they had done what's the convention they all do? The guild. It's a crafting minis and terrain.
Maybe Mace in North Carolina, right?
Mace. That's it. But Gareth was here from Australia, DMG. So, and he was hanging out with Scotty for like a week. So me and Ted flew out basically for a day. Like we came in late on a Friday and left early on a Sunday because of Ted's schedule. So, but we just like hung out with them, and Scotty has a simple D6 system that he runs, and I think he was using those luck dice as well.
Yeah.
And then also Gareth's 7D system has something when you fail, you also get some kind of like Benny to use later.
Yeah, I think those are awesome rules.
Yeah.
And I haven't played 7D6. Like, I know it exists. I want to play it. I haven't gotten a chance. I did play a game with Scotty with his the Easy D6 system. And
it's a great system.
It is a really good system. I think it's the best D6 system. Like, I'm not a fan of D6 systems. And I think the best of them is probably Tiny Dungeons. But that system is really good. It's really well done.
Yeah, I'm going to run everybody through character creation, right? You're going to get an index card. You're going to write some things down. And then you can literally just throw away the index card. And you will be able to play it. It's so simple.
Yep. It's cool.
The 7D system is interesting too. I like that it uses all the different dice, and the smaller the die, the better you are at something, right? So successes are measured by ones, how many ones you get. But when you fail, you get experience in that thing that you failed at. And when you get enough experience, then the die shrinks and goes down. So, as you get better at something, the harder it is to gain experience doing it, because you get more successes and it's easier. Which is an interesting concept.
It is. That's cool.
So that was I guess pre-plague our Ohio adventure with DMG and DM Scotty, because they each ran one of the games. They're like, we're here, we might as well play something. And what do you guys want to play? I'm like, well, I don't want to play D&D. I play that all the time, and you both have your own systems. Let's just play those.
That's cool though, man. They had invited me to Mace this past year, and I'm all excited. I get to go, and then a worldwide plague broke out, and then none of them were there.
Yeah. I mean, it messed up a lot of things. We were supposed to do D&D in the castle again. We were supposed to run our own convention. Plague. But next year's going to be amazing.
Is Nerdarchy on for October?
No, not this year. We're going to probably shooting for the following year. We were kind of advised to let some other events go first and see how they go. And also, I mean, just doing a convention for the first time is hard enough without like going right into it after the plague. So it is. So we're going to push to next year, and we actually have to start rebuilding a lot of stuff from that too as well, just because of the lapse in time. And, there's definitely some obstacles we ran into because of that, unfortunately. But
you had quite a lineup.
Yeah. That is the thing I'm really depressed about. I'm hoping everyone will still be down. Quite a few of the people definitely are still interested, like Jacob from XP to level 3 and Satine and Guy Schlanders. So, we're definitely going to get a bunch of the people back for sure. And, also for us too, it's just like, it was an excuse to like try and like scoop up and gather all of our friends together and just throw a big party.
Yeah, I would like to go.
Plus, there's nothing like before PAX Unplugged. There was nothing really on the East Coast for gaming, for tabletop gaming. So You know, we want to correct that. And also, like, I feel like PAX Unplugged, they're not really East Coasters. Like,
No.
nah, they're PAX from all over the place. So we
Was it
need
any good?
PAX Unplugged.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was really good actually. It's if you get a chance, it's definitely a convention worth checking out. It's funny because like I was never really a convention goer, and then we started doing the Nerdarchy thing, so I was like, I guess maybe I should check the scene out. And you know, so my first conventions were Origin and Gen Con 50, and then like Ted had been to a lot more conventions than I had. And when we did PAX Unplugged, he's like, "Whoa, this is like the biggest convention I've ever been to." And I was kind of like, I was actually kind of disappointed because I was like, I know it's their first year and all, but it's still PAX, right? Like they do 7 conventions a year. I don't think they get to claim first year anymore because they do so many of them. And it was still a decent size, but compared to like Origins and Gen Con, it was tiny, right? But I think they've had 3 of them so far, and each year it got better and better. So it's a good show.
Yeah, a lot of D&D, a lot of RPGs there.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's basically all board games and it's all tabletop. So, like, I don't like Gen Con is cool, but and Origins, but like you know, the more popular cons like that get, the more they get away from RPGs.
Yeah, it seems that way. I mean, I think that Gen Con, having gone to Gen Cons way back as far as '89, I think the scene is just as big, but because it's in a hotel out of the way, it doesn't seem that way. You know?
Yeah, like there's so much more of around it now, probably.
Yes.
So in relation, like everybody wants that video game money. That's what it is.
Hmm.
Or at least that's the impression that I get. So that stuff kind of gets pushed to the fore. But are you a big con goer?
I was. we went to Gen Con every year. I mean, I had gone before I was married, and then when my children were old enough, I don't even know what old enough is. Where my daughter must have been 8, my son 5 or 6, and my other son was like as a baby, he's in that pouch thing, and that reverse backpack. And like my boys were raised at Gen Con, and to them, that's the most fun place on earth. Like if you ask them, would you rather go to Disney World or Gen Con? They'd be like, oh, Gen Con. I mean, and now, they're much older. They're 16 and 19. But we just had the greatest time every year going to Gen Con.
Your kids are the same age as mine.
Yeah.
Pretty close. Yeah, my son will be 21 this year, and my daughter is about to turn 17.
All right. Well, you're almost out of the woods.
Yeah, I mean, my daughter keeps a go bag and is constantly looking to move out. And my son, we're never going to get rid of him. So, only one of them's a gamer.
Only one of them's a gamer. Yeah, my kids play different games. So my oldest son, and that's the cool thing about Gen Con. Like my son, I have one that plays Dungeons & Dragons, one that doesn't. He plays video games, but they both love Werewolf. They could play that Werewolf game.
Oh yeah.
They literally play every moment it's open till it closes at the crack of dawn. They just love it.
That's like around the clock, right? That thing is like always going. Those guys are always out there screaming for people.
It starts at 6 and it ends at about 4 or 5 in the morning. And my kids will play till they're exhausted. And that's the cool thing about Gen Con. It's like there's games for everybody. My wife plays board games, and I like role-playing games. So it's like that's the cool thing about it. Like everybody can find something they want to do.
Are you going to Gen Con this year?
No, sadly, no.
I wasn't, but now I am. I just something broke in me and it's like I haven't done anything in forever. It feels like I need to do something. I'm just going. So
Ben Milton from Questing Beast asked me like, hey, you want to, you want to go? And my thing was like, it just feels like there's so many vendors, so many companies that are just not going to be there.
Yeah.
That like, I don't know.
Yeah, I really don't know what to expect, to be honest with you. Like, but I mean, I know at least some of my friends will be there. Like, usually, I get to catch up with Satine at the different events. I've not met Jameson yet, so I'll get to meet him, which is cool. I know there'll definitely be some other people there as well, but I do know a lot of people that aren't going this year as well. And that's why I mainly like going to conventions anyway. I just go to hang out with my internet friends.
Yeah, I was looking forward to it. The other thing is September is when I have to go back to school. Like I'm a real teacher in real life. And that is just September to a teacher is like April for tax accountants. It's just like
gearing up. Yeah, that's why Ted isn't going either, because it's like it's too close to the beginning of the school year. And I mean, my kid, we're lucky. Like my in-laws live close by. My son is grown, so I'm like, I don't care what you do. You're an adult. You can figure it out. My wife doesn't really share those views, but and my daughter, she'll be 17, so she's old enough to start figuring these things out. My son will be around. My in-laws are down the street, so me and the wife are going to take a road trip and drive out there and hang out for a couple of days. So
next year for sure, I'll be there.
Yeah, you should come down to PAX Unplugged.
I probably will.
I mean, it's pretty local. That's probably what, an hour and a half for you. Hour.
Philadelphia is weird. I could get there in 50 minutes.
Yeah.
In like 48 minutes, or it may take me over 2 hours.
Well, you know what? Leaving New York is the same way, right? Like you could I might go someplace and it's really fast, or I might sit on the GW for 2 hours.
Yeah. So November, right?
That is, I don't know if it's November or December. It might just be December this year, because I feel like everything got pushed.
Okay.
I mean, that one is that is so local for us. I won't even look at it until I start seeing stuff, probably. So DM Guru 2 wants to know, will Professor Dungeon Master be at NerdarchyCon? We will definitely extend the invitation. That's for sure.
Yeah, probably. Are you always going to do it on that Halloween weekend?
We were planning to try and move it away from that if we could. It was just like when we were planning, that was the date that we got, like that we could get. Because I guess when we started planning, it was like just a little bit more than a year out, and getting dates were a lot harder.
Because I got a big Halloween party. My kids have been, and I was like, well, COVID happened, so that's the end of our party.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was like, but they are NerdarchyCon. I think maybe we'll just end. That's it. No more party.
Yeah.
And then I was seriously thinking of partying without them. But if I will go to NerdarchyCon. Yeah.
It'll be pretty local for you too. I mean, we're looking at that Oaks, PA area. We'll either use the same expo center, or I want to investigate the casinos down the street. I had even thought about like Atlantic City, but I also hear like Atlantic City's like terrible for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know.
We almost threw a convention years ago in Atlantic City at the Showboat. Like somebody we'd been talking to randomly called us and they're like, you want to put together an event in 6 weeks? And like they're like, the space is going to be like free or really nominal. And because at the time, because the casinos had this weird problem where like they were sold, but the gaming licenses were delayed. So they couldn't use them as casinos. So they were just like trying to put anything in there. Oh, yeah. And then we started like pulling things together. And then like a week later, like everything they were doing got shut down by the Board of Health or something. It was really weird. So yeah. So I mean, it's definitely been something on our radar for a while. Just the idea of getting together with like-minded individuals and being nerdy, and also like being a D&D YouTuber is weird because you have a business model that's very much built off of somebody else's IP and product.
Yeah.
So, like our brilliant idea was like, well, we'll start an event company, and that'll kind of be our pivot to kind of diversify a little bit. And that was 2019 at the end of the year. And then 2020 was like, thought that'd be a good idea, huh? So,
Yeah, it's really strange too that as Dungeon Craft has grown, and this was always my dream was I would be able to just like maybe make enough money to go to Gen Con and pay for it.
yeah.
And that was a very modest goal. And it's, now the channel's gotten so big. I mean, it's really big, way bigger than I imagined. And yet I can't go to Gen Con. You know?
Yeah.
It's out of reach. It's like the Twilight Zone where that guy who likes to read, and then there's finally like the nuclear war or whatever, and he's like, I can be alone with my books, and he steps on his glasses.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Fate is fickle. That is for sure.
It really is. And
2022 is going to be awesome. It's going to be totally lit.
That's what I'm hoping. That is really what I'm hoping. I am planning to go, to Gen Con, maybe Origins too from this year.
Well, like that's kind of like the weird thing too about what we do. Like when we first started, 100,000 subscribers still seemed like the ceiling, right? There was, there weren't any big channels doing D&D back then. I mean, Critical Role wasn't even a thing when we first started. Like the closest thing was It Me JP, and they were doing like live plays, and I think that they were probably like the first like streamers pretty much, and I think they had like 100,000 subscribers, but that seemed like such an outlier that it was like inconceivable. And now you have quite a few YouTube channels that are D&D centric, and they're like 400,000 subs.
Yeah, it's so it's wild.
Yeah. So, and also like the new YouTubers coming up are so good. Like they're way like I always say if we were to start today, we wouldn't stand a chance.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel there's so much more professional than what I'm doing even now.
Well, we had the ability, like we were lucky and had the ability to kind of grow into it. Like we didn't have to know everything, but like now, like these younger folks, like Jacob from X Big Level 3, Rune Smith, Logan over there, Davy Chappie. I feel like all those folks just like grew up with the platform, and I look at my own kids, right? Because like they don't watch TV. Everything they watch is on their phone, and it's just like it's like all YouTube, or with my daughter now, it's like all TikTok.
Yep. Yeah. The younger, like Davy Chappie mentioned, like they definitely have an edge, with the technology and how to work it.
I feel like it's like not even just that. Like it's like in their DNA. It's not just like the technology. It's just like they intuitively understand the content and what people like. And also, obviously, like there's a lot more people like in their age groups on YouTube now. So to appeal to as well. So the content itself that they put out is really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny when I see like this, like when they do this like really short and snappy stuff like Davy Chappie does, and like I'm like, how do you squeeze so much content into such a short amount of time? It's like me and Ted could barely introduce ourselves in the amount of time that you did the whole video.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah, I've noticed that too. And yeah, it's always a fight. Like for me, I really have to struggle to, just figure out what's the topic that people want to talk about, like that is going to be interesting. And
I I've done over 3,000 videos and I still have no idea what people want.
yeah,
So
you ever have those weird videos that like these videos that like you expect to be very popular and
yeah,
nobody likes them, and then some weird thing you do, all of a sudden it goes viral, and it's just nutty, and you can't predict it.
it's like the more I do this, the more I realize I have no idea what I'm doing. But
Yeah,
that's all right. I like it. My job is to talk about D&D and gaming, so I can't complain. And also, a side effect of that is I just game a lot more than I used to.
yeah, it's like that's the cool thing about it is like my dream, was when I was a teenager or in my 20s. It's just like I wish I could play Dungeons and Dragons for a living, like all the time, and now all I do is think about D&D.
Yeah.
And I have like 3 different groups and they all want to play, and I'm always running for somebody. And I find my dreams have finally come true.
So let's see. We got a question. So, what can a RPG chronicler wants to know? What can a GM do to help their OSR players transition to more modern systems like 5e and Pathfinder 2e?
Oof, that's tough. That's tough. I think it's easier to transition from Pathfinder or 5e than it is to go OSR to 5e, because there's so much of most of the OSR is like, oh, well, you want to ride a horse, you want to have a character who can trick ride a horse. Well, I'll just tell you what, we'll make it up on the spot. But like a Pathfinder 5e, they will explain that situation for you. So it's like
you're going to need a skill and maybe a feat.
Yeah, it's just like I that's a great question. I've never been asked that question. That's a brilliant question. It seems to me that it can't go that way. You can become like the famous Taking 20 video, like why I'm quitting Pathfinder 2.0. And he got a lot of crap for that video, but his whole thing was just like, this game is too complex and slow moving, right? I think that sort of naturally happens as you get older, because you're like, I don't have time to read all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like I got a mortgage and I got work, I guess just got to go into this game. I don't want to have to read anything for a game that I've been playing for 30 years. And to transition, like typically players just become more amenable to simpler games. Just strip it down to the basics, and they mostly don't want to make something more complex. So I don't know. That's stumping me.
So for me, it always comes down to the same thing, and we get like variations of this question, and I always boil it down: how do I make person X do Y, right? And if they don't want to, you can't. So that's the key. Is like, well, are you trying to sell them on it because you want them to do it, or you want to you want to introduce them to it because you think they'll like it, right? And I feel like before you even get into the game and the rules, you're going to know whether they're going to like it or not. Especially if you're talking about an OSR person who, it is about simpler rules, less complexity. They're streamlined a bit more. And like you said, we just make it up when we want to figure out how to do something. Like, you could probably sell that person on a lot of games that aren't OSR games, but they might not be D&D or Pathfinder, right? They might be Fate or Powered by the Apocalypse, or because they might just be looking for a very specific experience. And I like being able to show up to the table and be able to start playing right away. Don't want to read a 400-page book. And, when you're talking about a game like Pathfinder 2e, like, isn't there there's like 30 or 50 conditions or something crazy?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it always comes down to matching up. Like, you might just need a different table to play those games with.
Yep. Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that, so.
No, there's a game for everybody. That's the great thing about the time we live in, right?
What is your go-to non-D&D game?
There is no go-to game. I mean, I play other games. Like I like what's a game that I like? I like Call of Cthulhu, but I play a stripped down version of that. If I'm game mastering, I'll play a stripped down version of that. If I am a player, I play the version that the game master wants to run. So I'm very familiar with Call of Cthulhu. I like Dread a lot. I'm probably doing an upcoming episode on Dread,
I've
which
not,
is
I haven't played either of those games yet.
yeah, Call of Cthulhu is well, it's skill based. It's the same system as RuneQuest. It's the Chaosium system. It's skill based. You got a ton of skills, and you build the character you buy. And you got to roll under in a percentile dice, which is people that like percentile dice games really dig that because it's easy as a game master to say, well, roll under 51%. It's like so
Yeah.
that reckon's quick. Dread, it's a horror game, but you use a Jenga tower. And every time you do something that's risky or outside your character's wheelhouse, the game master says, make a pull, and you have to pull from the tower. When the tower collapses, you die. And I really dig that game.
Yeah, it's on my list to play. We just haven't gotten around to it. That's like everything, right? There's just so many games out there. And our group tends to kind of default to D&D. Recently, we went back to like we'll run 3 games a month. We'll run 2 D&D games, and then we'll run something that's not D&D, just to kind of like mix it up and experience different games. It's generally like me and Ted, and maybe some of the same players, but they're like 3 different. They're essentially 3 different groups.
Mm.
But also, I find it's a lot easier to get people to commit to like 1 day a month.
Yes, yeah.
Our original group used to be every Saturday, and we did that for years. I mean, probably almost a decade, but it just was not sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, as you get older, it's really difficult. That's always a challenge. When are you going to play? I have it. I think it's on D&D 24th. That's my oldest group. And it's like it's planned out weeks ahead of time.
Yeah.
I'm always playing because I've got multiple groups. So. But.
And that's kind of like what me and Ted have kind of done. And for us, that is what worked, right? That's how we finally managed to have games go from level 1 to level 20 and have campaigns actually get completed. It took a lot longer to complete them, but like GMs weren't getting burnt out. We're switching between campaigns and game systems. And it was so much better for engagement. And then also for most of those groups, they were just committing to 1 game a month. So it was manageable.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that. Like if it is 1 game a month, people will make more of an effort, I think, to get there.
Well, I mean, we talk about this on the channel often, especially in these live chats, is like as you get older and you're trying to streamline your life and figure out what you have time for, as great as RPGs are, they take a lot of time. It's like, you can trim off 3 or 4 things or just trim off gaming, which is like, 4-hour sessions minimum.
Mm.
So that has always been kind of like the challenge.
Yeah, definitely as one gets older, it becomes more and more difficult.
What is your release schedule over on Dungeon Craft?
I release a video every Tuesday. What is this Tuesday or is this Monday?
Today is Monday. Tomorrow's Tuesday.
Every Tuesday at noon. And I'm thinking of switching to Mondays, but Tuesdays, my demographics, my analytics show that everybody, it's funny. If you look at the average age of the Dungeon Craft viewer, and when they watch on Monday, Tuesday, and they watch mostly in the middle of the week. And I think I figured out why. They're watching on their lunch break on Tuesday. Now, Monday, they tend to not watch YouTube until later. And that's because they're getting to work and realizing, oh, I've got to do a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But by Tuesday, you have kind of a handle on what the week is going to be. And then, they watch Tuesday at noon is like their analytics told me that that's the peak time for my audience to release videos. So sometimes I do it on Thursday too. If I have an extra video, I'll drop it on Thursday. But at least one a week.
Over time, what I figured out from our analytics was like, it was actually just when we dropped the videos seemed to be like when we got the most viewership. And it like kind of seemed to coincide with that. But we were just past the hour mark. Final thoughts before we head on out?
No, it's been great to be here. You know, like one of the coolest things about you know, being on YouTube is like I watched Nerdarchy for so long, and it's like, here I am. You know, it's like I can't even believe it.
Well, you know, your channel is one of the channels that I'll occasionally like dip in and watch a video. I just don't watch that much RPG stuff anymore because I feel like that's most of my life. So when I do watch YouTube videos, they're usually anything but RPG. But like, I'll dip in on your videos sometimes. Jacob from XP to level 3. Sometimes Davy Chappie, Guy Schlanders. But you know, you usually have some interesting topics over there that'll grab me and be like, all right, maybe I'm not all D&D'd out today.
Well, thank you. And I've gotten a lot of ideas. Like I have to do a video. You did a video called where are the dungeons in Dungeons and Dragons? And I want to make a video about that.
Go for it. Like, also, I think that video really speaks to more of the way we play has changed so much since we started way back when.
Yeah.
But with that, I want to thank you for stopping by and hanging out. Until everyone else, until next time, stay nerdy.
Peace out.